a friend is very tall. Already. So before we start, introduce yourself. Now you're going to know this group.
I'm Desmond, and yeah, basically Alvin asked me to come.
I ordered it.
Yes. Well, after a few times.
After a few times. Welcome, welcome. Thank you. Have you introduced yourself before? No, first time you're here. Come, tell us your name. Sui Ling.
Yeah. So my name is Sui Ling. This morning I came from Puja, so I decided to just stay on.
Okay, let's see. Welcome, welcome. So was it because you saw the poster?
Yes.
The poster captured your interest. So do you know who come up with the poster? Not me, not me. Who are? Come up with the poster? Sean. Sean. Yeah. You like the poster? Welcome, welcome. Besides Sui Ling, and who else is here for the first time? I think they are having different time zone behind us. So the sun haven't risen yet. How come we don't turn on the lights behind? Are we on the budget? Yeah, we have no second-class citizen here. Okay. Yeah. The middle row lights are still not on. I think the middle row lights are here. No, that is the front. No. Very quickly, just flip. Yes. Okay, very good. So let me see. Today, we will go from the far right. All introduce. Wait, move to your. Okay. That the lady behind. I think. What's your name? Have you been here before? The lady with a yellow mask, colorful mask.
Hello, good afternoon to everybody. I'm really first time here. My daughter beside me brought me here. Yes.
Hello, daughter.
Hello, Shifu.
Hello. What's your name?
I'm Esther.
Esther.
It's my second time here.
Have you introduced before?
The first time many years back, yes.
Okay, have you introduced again?
I'm Esther, and then it's my second time here, and I'm happy to hear attending Shifu's talk.
Very good. Welcome, welcome. Then let me see this side. Well.
Yeah, this is my first time. My sister brought me. Yeah, the red shirt.
Oh, I see. So you brought a family here. Very good. Welcome, welcome. Next time, maybe we should stagger the seat a bit. Wow, this is a perfect row. Cannot see anyone behind. Let me see. Lin Toy, have you introduced? You have, have you introduced here before? Have, okay. Don't worry. Yeah. At most, we ask you to introduce again. I think that's Casey. Hello. Okay, I think everybody is accounted for. Some of them are like keeping very still. Yeah, hiding behind the shadow, the silhouette. So welcome to SGC, where we have short puja, short meditation, and sometimes long, sometimes short dharma sharing. Yeah, so for those who are new, you'll find that we have combination of the Pali chanting and then also the Chinese chanting. This is to cater for the younger generation who are more English speaking, and at the same time not to lose touch with the Chinese Mahana lineage. Yeah. So today's topic is interesting. The taste of freedom. In the Udana Sutta, in the Udana collection, Sutta 56, there's a verse. Udana is kind of translated as the utterances. Yeah. So in the Buddha's time, oftentimes when the disciples they attain enlightenment, then they may make an utterance. Yeah, basically exclaim certain verse, something that struck them. Yeah. So in this verse, if I don't recall wrongly, it goes that that liberation, nirvana, is like the great ocean that has all but one taste, the taste of liberation, the taste of freedom. Yeah. So freedom. Do you all want freedom? Of course, I think I don't need to ask you to say yes. Yeah, we all love freedom. But what is freedom? What is freedom? I think, especially in today's society, is something that is so valued. But then when you look at the news, when you look at the social media, you find that different people value freedom differently, or perhaps we can say that they look at freedom differently. That what is freedom to one person may not be freedom to another. Some people look at freedom as the freedom to say what you want. Yeah? And we call it collectively as freedom of speech. Then there are those who look at freedom in terms of what they can do. Yeah? Freedom of your actions. But this itself can be a whole range, including there are those who, in some countries, they would extend to freedom of expression. So they feel like they should have a right to spray paint your car, perhaps spray paint some public building. In some extreme cases, then we see people, well, in Singapore it's considered extreme, to go to the streets, with banners, slogans, and chanting mottos and slogans, maybe even blocking traffic, barricading areas. We can see that all over the world. Yeah, in the past few years. In fact, it's not just the past few years. Since a long time. Since a long time. So, but in Singapore, it's a bit different. Yeah. In Singapore, do we have that freedom to protest? We have. Yeah. Yes, we have to apply for it. In Singapore, we pride ourselves as a very organized country. We are very civilized. So whatever you want to do, we go through proper channel. If you want to protest, yes, you can. You must apply for a permit. I think for a longest time, it was a bit of a curiosity. But I think in the past 2 years, like in 2019, in the nearby country, there was massive like chaos for months. I don't know about you, but for me, that was a bit of a turning point for my appreciation of the way we do things. Suddenly, it makes a lot of sense why you should apply for a permit to protest. And because of that, I researched, did a bit of Google research, and I found that actually a lot of countries, including Western countries, do require you to apply for a police permit. Yeah, that it must be approved. Singapore is not the only one, you know. Yeah, we used to think that Singapore we have all kinds of interesting rules, right? But it is there for a reason. But we're not here to talk about policy, okay? In case anyone who is online. Just to go through the different kinds of ideas of freedom. What other kind of freedoms do we talk about? Do we hear people talking about? How about freedom to not work? I don't mean go on strike. I mean take MC. Do you have freedom not to go to work? Yes. You have the freedom to not to go to work. Your boss has the freedom to fire you. That's why it's not called slavery. Yeah. What else? How about students? Do you have the freedom not to go to school? No, the mother police will come after you. Before the school come after you, you'll be apprehended by the mother police. How about freedom of thought? The freedom to think, to have different kind of view, different viewpoints. I think in Singapore, by and large, we do have all these freedoms. Yeah. There were times in history where in some countries, if you have certain way of thinking and it's made public, when we say make public, it doesn't mean that you actually publicize it. The fact that you have such an idea and it is known to some people, it can get you into some hot soup. And we're not talking about Asia, we're talking about Europe itself. Yeah. Those were dark times. Yeah. Maybe that's why that's why it's called the Dark Ages. During that period, certain kind of thinking can land you into the courts, and that's the longer end of the stick. You might just be, you might find yourself in some dungeon or some stick. Human history has been wrought with this, and perhaps that's why we are so fascinated with freedom. But freedom is also about something else that is perhaps close to heart in Buddhism. Freedom is also about ego, about the self, about agency. The right, as some would put it, the right for the individual to express ourselves in whatever we wish, whatever ways or means we wish. So if you distill it down, it's basically the agency of the self. That I have free will and I have the right to do, say, or think in whatever ways I want. How does that then contrast with the teaching of no self in Buddhism? For if there's no self, then what freedom is there? What true freedom is there? And by extension, does it mean that we don't have free will? How is free will related to freedom? In a sense, we can say that we have free will, and if we can just for now assume that we have free will, freedom would be the ability to express that will. Yeah? And the lack of freedom would be an imposition, an external imposition perhaps, that restricts that expression of free will. But in Buddhism, we say that, no, actually, I shouldn't say we say that. Because in Buddhism, we seldom tell people how it is. We invite people to go and investigate. So think about it. Did you all come here freely? Maybe not. But in a way, he still come freely, right? Did you like hold him and 9 points.
I haven't paid.
Haven't paid. So what are the paid agents? So even in cases where we have children that is being coerced into coming to temple, I think over here we don't have. Yeah. How about the two of you? Are you all being coerced here? I see her. I see her. Yeah, it's okay lah. At least over here there's aircon. This is called the gentle cohesion. So even then, at some point we do have to make a choice, right? Of course, barring cases where you are literally at 9 point. But even at 9 point, does it count as freedom, free will or not? Think about it. Because many times we do certain things and then we may say, oh, I was, my hand was like tied. Yeah. I'm forced to do this, I'm forced to do that. So much, all the different grades of freedom and the lack thereof. If you have a choice, how many of you would choose freedom? That took a bit of hesitation. How many of you would rather not have freedom? Not many. In fact, none. I guess that's why there's only one monk here and so many lay people. Look at you and look at me. I don't have the freedom to wear whatever clothes I want, right? Every day is more or less the same. In a way, I have a bit more freedom than others. I sometimes wear the terracotta robes. Some would say, no, you're not supposed to wear anything else here and there. But my mom, like, all Buddhist robes. You all have freedom to wear what you want, right? So that's one kind of freedom. Imagine if now we say, you must wear the same thing. Right? In school, you have to wear the same thing, right? I mean, not exactly the same, but something that looks the same. Imagine if all of you wear the same shirt, all fit into the same shirt. You know what I mean? The idea of same, it's not exactly the same. So think about it. That's a form of freedom. You all had lunch just now. Did you all get to choose what you want to eat? That's another form of freedom. Yeah. And these are freedoms that we exercise every single day. To choose what to wear, to eat what you want to eat. Now the question is, do you choose to wear what you like to wear? Or do you choose to wear what you don't like to wear? Besides our young children who are currently in a stage where they experience a kind of oppression from our public school, where they have to wear uniform and don't have the freedom of expression. So every day when you choose, like today when you come here and you choose to wear what you wear, was it something of your liking? Or at least is it something that is not of your disliking? Yeah, probably not, right? Yeah, probably not something you don't like. Mask, okay, maybe mask, okay, mask. Yeah. And even for masks, you notice there are different masks. The other day, I was told by a student that she likes to wear a certain mask, and she says that it's very comfortable. And then suddenly it struck me. I was like, hey, by the way, the government issued masks, those are certified. They do tests, they carry out tests, and then they do sample of the production to make sure that every batch fulfills certain criteria, where if they were to have a controlled nozzle and they emit a burst, it should only, it doesn't block 100%, of course. It should block a certain percentage, and it should not travel beyond a certain distance, and so on. The process of creating aerosol of the moisture should not exceed a certain percentage, and so on. The same goes for all those surgical masks, certified masks. And then I was like, how about the one that is homemade type? So I was like, wait a minute, on the mask that you are wearing, is it not? I don't look anywhere. I don't say who are. So suddenly I'm like, oh no, are these masks certified? Then she was like, no, but Sifu, very comfortable. No, it's comfortable. But the purpose of wearing the mask is not to be comfortable, it's for protection. The most comfortable is maskless, right? Yeah, but within certain constraint and confines, for the sake of survival, yeah, we give up some freedom. So it's a trade-off, right? It's a trade-off. So the question is, when you choose to come and then you choose the different kind of mask, both for protection and for comfort, you choose the clothes that you wear. In some cases, for comfort as well. In some cases, for your own preference beyond comfort, but because you like a certain color, for example. Maybe it attenuates your figure, yeah, or hides your figure. Sometimes it's to attenuate, sometimes it's to hide. Yeah, you know what I mean. And but despite doing all that, does it give us certainty in our happiness? Does it assure us that we will feel a certain way? For sure, when you choose certain clothing, you are not intending that you wear it to look stupid, right? To feel stupid. Maybe some of you do, I don't know, don't raise your hand. Yeah, but maybe you need to see me after this. But inevitably, sometimes despite putting in our best effort to wear this, to put on that, yeah, to choose that specific color that provides that contrast with your complexion, not too dark, not too bright, give enough of the reverse lighting, but not too strong so that your skin color don't fade into oblivion. Yeah, you choose that particular shade of glasses so that it draws attention but doesn't hide your features. We do all that, but does it guarantee that we will feel good? Does it give us the freedom to feel good? Many years ago, in I think possibly one of the first Dharma class I conducted at SPF, the topic was freedom as well. Yeah. So that day when I saw this topic, I was like, In Buddhism, we talk about a different kind of freedom. Talk about inner freedom. The freedom to be happy. The freedom to be free from greed, hatred, and delusion. The freedom from jealousy, from anxiety. As we pursue external freedom, the freedom to do this, to do that, when that freedom is curbed, is curtailed, do we then automatically feel agitated? If it is a deterministic relationship whereby you don't get to do what you want, then you must feel a certain way. That means the latter is beyond your control. That means you have no control over your emotions. That means you have lost your freedom of how you want to feel. And to me, that is perhaps more important, right? Because after all, to get to do what you want to do is, in most cases, to be happy, right? But if you ultimately lose the freedom of happiness, then what point all other kind of freedoms? So sometimes when we see people fighting for something, we may at the onset feel like, why are they doing that? But there's a reason why people do that, right? Even going up in arms, in rage. We may not agree with it, but they're not stupid. Nobody is stupid. Maybe sometimes. But it's because of a view, a belief that by doing that, they'll have more freedom, the freedom to be happy. So Buddhism kind of short-circuit the process. The Buddha kind of just say, hey, you know what? Let's just cut straight to the chase. You want happiness? Well, deal with that. So there are so many cases where I sit down and have conversation with people. I remember in 2003, before I came back, I was having this 1-month retreat, solitude retreat. And there was this American lad, Colin Donahue. So he came up to the monastery a few times, and then when he knew that I was on a retreat, he visited me a couple of times. And it was around then that there was the Iraqi war, right, the second one. And then he shared with me his passion for justice, and he felt compelled to do something. So I asked him, I said, hey, what if I have a magic wand that I can just say, and then, snap my fingers, if you will, and then George Bush will be gone. Not dead, but just not the president. I'm not killing people. Yeah, it's just a thought experiment, right? Because it's like, oh, he's an American, and then he's saying like, the then president, how can he be waging such war and there's so much injustice? So I asked him like, so if we were to somehow be able to remove him, does it solve the problem? Because the end, to what end, you see, if you want to campaign against it, then to what end? One possible end is remove the president, right? Yeah. And for the record, anyone from US watching this is not incitement of insurrection or anything. This was a thought experiment back in 2003. In no way suggests any incursion. Yeah. And then I told him, I said, the trouble with this kind of approach is you never know who is going to come up next, It might be worse. Yeah. You remove one dictator, the next one is probably fiercer. Otherwise, how did he come up? And then I asked him, I said, do you think there's injustice in the US? And he thought about it and said, well, I guess so. So I told him, I said, within a radius of, let's say, 5 miles, do you think you are able to ensure that there are no injustice within a 5-mile radius? And he looked at me and he's like, well, that's kind of tricky, isn't it? Like, a bit difficult, right? And I said, yeah. So what makes you think you are able to solve the injustice a few thousand miles away in Middle East? I'm not suggesting that we should just turn a blind eye to everything in the world because it's too far and nothing to do with us, and think that there's nothing to do with us. Yeah. But the crux of the discussion is to get him to realize that perhaps we should start with ourselves, with where we are. And the discussion came back to this same point about how if you don't get to where you want to be, the end goal, then do you still have that freedom to feel the way you want to feel? Because especially in US, right, there's this huge preoccupation with having freedom. Or at least they pride themselves as the champions of freedom. Some would say freedom for themselves. I don't know. So what freedom do you all cherish? Inner or outer freedom? If you cherish outer freedom, that's okay. No crime and shame in that. And sometimes it's good actually to at least know that that's what you cherish. But know that if that's all you cherish, you may find yourself on a wild goose chase. That is a endless goal. Yeah, because all it takes is someone to tweak a bit and then boom. And even when you arrive at your goal, then what? And much more the process itself. Last I checked, it's never easy. So, but if you do cherish external freedom, perhaps it's good to also keep in mind internal freedom. In Buddhism, if you look at all the different practices, it points towards having the inner stability. To be able to reach the point, in Chinese we will say, 如如不动. When we first hear this phrase, 如如不动, it seems like, you know, I am a robot. I have attained arahanthood. Nothing touches me. Yeah. But it's not meant to be that way. Yeah. It simply means that our expectation is in line with reality. And that's why for the Arahants, for the Buddhas, regardless of whatever happens, it is within their expectation. And that's why their inner peace is not disturbed. Whatever happens, they can see clearly how and why it should happen. There's no surprises in that sense. I guess that's a big no-no for those who like surprises. Yeah, I know of some students who love surprises that always, Shifu, I got something for you. It's a surprise. And I'm like, by now you should know I'm not into surprises. Can you just tell me what you intend to get from me? Yeah, I may not be that enlightened yet, but I'm not into surprises. So for those of you who like surprises, be forewarned. Continuing on this path can be a surprise for you that you may not like, a final surprise, that nothing else is a surprise. So, what are the kind of freedoms you like? Ask your questions. Now you have the freedom to ask. Today is the last week of the month. I'd like to devote some of the time for you to ask questions. If there's one freedom besides inner freedom that is heralded in Buddhism, that is the freedom to ask questions. And dare I say so, even the freedom to doubt. Come, who shall be the first to question, to ask? Oh yes, we have Marcel, the first contender.
And Shifu, what about financial freedom?
Oh yes. I recently saw some video. Shifu is quite in touch, you know. There's something called FIRE. You know what is FIRE? Financial independence, retire early. Right? I remember the acronym correctly, right? Yeah. Have you heard of this before? Financial independence is passé already. Now is on top of that, retire early. Yeah. there are a few ways to do it. The approach that is being introduced is basically you spend between 10 to 13, 15 years, work as hard as you can, spend as little as you can, save and invest as much as you can, and then by the time you come to 13 to 15 years, you can retire with like a good, 600, 800K or something. Yeah. Let me, while I say this first, let me put this like, what is financial independence? What does it mean to you all? You know what my Sisyong once said? He said, I don't need money. I just need to be able to have the things I want. Huh? That's why he's Sisyong, you know. Huh? In case he's watching, this is 知道法师. Very wise. Meanwhile, we are chasing after money. Everybody chasing after money. Forget. The important thing is to be able to spend it, you know. What you want, you're able to get it. Okay. Because otherwise, why have money? Right? Financial independence is actually about that. So that you are able to, get what you want. Which brings us back to the first noble truth. Number 7, not getting what you want is suffering. Buddha is so wise. The lack of financial independence is suffering. but on a more, can I use the word Fudishiro note? The Buddha did share on how to take care of our finances. The famous, or split into 4 parts: 1 part for your work, 1 part for usage, 1 part for saving, 1 part for charity. But that is very well known. But do you know that the Buddha also said something that we have known for the longest time? To make sure that your income exceeds your outcome. Yeah, the Buddha actually said that. Yeah. In other words, don't spend more than you earn. I mean, this is one of the simplest advice for financial independence, you know. Yeah, but yet, especially I heard for the younger generation, it seems like, so impossible, you know. You see some of them. Yeah, it's that simple. But having said that, I still want to highlight a few things. Many years back, I have this friend, a close friend, and while we were chatting, the topic of housing came about. Not housing for the 2 of us, we were not at that stage. But we're talking about housing in terms of our parents' houses. And I just very openly said, like my parents, they are clearing the bank loan and stuff. And then she looked at me like, as though like that's some amazing news from Mars or what. She's like, really? My dad cleared his house loan like, 10 over years ago. I'm like, okay. And she said like her dad basically cleared in 15 years thereabout. Yeah, and then she was extolling to me how like every single cent thereafter that he earned is his to keep. And in my mind, I'm like, yeah, of course your dad is an engineer, your mom is, I think, an accountant or something. My dad is a quite a different grade. My dad would wish to do that, clear everything in 15 years, but he couldn't, right? But it got me thinking. Yeah, it got me thinking. Because later on, I heard about how long bank loans, housing loans can be. I heard there are those who take 25 years, 30 years. And it got me thinking that with that at the back of your mind, that is an unspoken source of stress. It's a stressor. And it's a very dangerous stressor because it is not in your face. It is just there's this little guy sitting at the back of your neck, you know, and then going like, you have a bank loan. You know? And then when you're at work and your boss gives you a lot of shit and you want to throw it, you have a bank loan. Your boss asks you to do something unethical, you're like, my prick, you have a bank loan. Yeah. And basically your hands are tied, you know. And because of that, people feel unhappy. And the worst thing is, you don't know why, but you just kind of, yeah, you have, your choice becomes so limited. Yeah. And guess what? One day you are stressed, 2 days you are stressed. When it's 5 years, 10 years, it becomes resentment. You start to resent your life. But you don't realize that it's because of that choice to get a house where you have to pay for 30 years. And then guess what? People will then extend that resentment to those who are benefiting from that house. It's because of you all. Remember that time? You want a new house, right? Now we are stuck with... You start to extend that resentment all over. And the worst thing is, those are usually our close families. You know, our loved ones. So for the longest time, thank you for asking about financial independence. For the longest time, whenever I go to university to give talks, I will somehow squeeze this in. And I'll tell them, like, no matter what the topic is, you know, meditation, I will squeeze this in. Because I feel that this is my responsibility. And to me, chances are most will not attain Arhan in this life, right? I mean, whoever is watching, you think you're going to attend Arhan over next Wednesday? You think you're going to attain Anagami? But at least don't get stressed over housing loan. So I've been telling young undergrads, most of you will be getting married. Yeah. Please do yourself a favor. Live within your means. Please don't, you know, get all excited, and then because you hear your friends who work in the bank got 12 months bonus, whatever, and then like just come out to work, or your senior come out to work for 3 to 4 years, and then got this beautiful house, whatever, and then drive this whatever car, and then you feel like you feel compelled, you must do that, and then you sign up for this super loan. I know of this friend, not her, but her sister. They have this, I think, 4 or 5 room flat. I mean, 4 room flat is nothing to be ashamed of, you know. You check around the whole of Asia, our 4 room flats is big. Like, if you think about it, right? In Singapore, where if you get to choose between 4 or 5 room and both are within your means, some would say, yeah, why not a 5 room, right? Not that we look down on 4 room. I mean, I was pretty happy in the 4 room flat for the longest time. But you ask practically anyone in Asia to come to Singapore, look at our 4 room flat, they'll be like, ooh, yeah, this is pretty good, awesome. But that friend's sister, they had a 4 or 5 room flat that's fully paid. And then guess what they did? They sold it off, got a condo for 1.8 million in Orchard for 99 years. When I heard that, I was like, why? Because it basically means that instead of just living a stress-free life, they just suddenly sign up with the bank and say, hey, I will work off for you for free. In fact, I'm going to become the profit center for you. Yeah, it's mind-boggling. So for the longest time, I've been doing, I considered that a public service. Every time I go to university to give talks, or like squeeze this message in. Please, please, please. I don't know what is a good average like loan duration. If you squeeze it too tight, then it can be stressful also. Yeah. I don't have a magic number, but what I do know is that most people don't need to stay in a condo. I know that most people don't need a 5-room flat. So I was really happy when I heard, when I bumped into these 2 students years back, and they told me that they are downgrading from 4-room to 3-room, when practically everybody I meet and I hear of that they are changing houses, they are upgrading. Singapore is, in Singapore, like it's a culture, upgrade culture, We upgrade our handphone, upgrade our cars, our house, our wives, our husbands. Yeah. Like, everything we must upgrade. Just our parents, we can't upgrade them. Parents we downgrade, we send them to the homes. we outsource them. So sad, huh? Yeah, don't worry, we're not outsourcing them. Steady. You're here to stay. Lifetime honorary member. Yeah, so that couple told me that they're downgrading. I was like, wow, nice. I can imagine that when they share that with their friends and family, most will be like, why? What happened? Are you, do you need some help? I think I'm probably one of the first to congratulate her that, yeah, 2 thumbs up. Because seriously, like even if you're newly married, if you don't intend to have kids, like why have so many rooms? But it's your choice, okay? If you have the capacity, the ability to have a 4-room, 5-room, I don't care how many rooms you want, but if you can afford it, why not? That's your choice. Yeah, but if you're going to have to take a 30-year loan where every month you have to scream and, then what for? Because at that point in time, they didn't intend to have kids yet. A few years ago, which is some years later, I bumped into the husband in the airport. And then he told me that the good news that his wife is expecting. And so they are upgrading. They are getting a new house. I said, okay, good choice. It doesn't mean that staying in a small house is always a good choice. It doesn't mean that getting a bigger one is always a bad choice. It's about whether you have financial freedom. I don't know how you all make your money. You want money? Ryan, you want money? It's like, is that a trick question? Financial independence. One way to have financial independence is, becoming a monk. Yeah, you just don't bother with money, then if you're free of it, When I first came back, my mom asked me, you don't accept ang pao, how are you going to survive? I said, like, what do you mean? Then she's like, then, like, if you fall sick, then I'm like, well, I'm okay. In future, when you grow old, what about if you fall sick now? Then I thought about it, and I'm like, if by the time I grow old and I fall sick, and for some reason, nobody want to take care of me, then I accept it. I must have done no service to anybody. They'll see, oh, this guy falls sick. Michael. Yeah. Today, I think most people have some kind of loan. Yeah. Whether it's car loan, house loan, bank loan, or credit card bills. Yeah. To some extent, today, using a credit card is just the norm, right? It's just a means to payment. Yeah. But honest to heart, there was one day, I think I was staying in the library at that point in time. Then one day I suddenly it just suddenly struck me that, oh, for the longest time, I'm actually debt free. Yeah. Because literally because I left the secular world, the secular life, and I stopped thinking about money. So, but it also means that you have to stop having ideas about pursuing material pursuits. Yeah. Yeah, and then I was like, yeah. So I've been debt free since. Yeah. But in case if anybody is considering it, you must know that你饿不死也不会发财哦。Yeah, you won't go hungry. Yeah, don't worry. If you take on the ropes, you won't go hungry, but you won't strike it big also. If you want to strike it big, easier to stay where you are and work harder. I don't know whether I answered your question. Any other question? I'll chit chat. Anybody want to chit chat with me? Or some of you are now calling up your agent, do refinancing. I heard that the interests are going all over the place. Good time to refinance. This monk knows too much about the world. Any other question? I know your pattern. When we let you ask questions, you want to ask. Then after that, come over. It's true. I actually got one question. Every time, after class, for sure, after class, then, come over and actually, I wanted to ask. Actually,
I want to ask a question. So, do you have any practical advice on eliminating or diminishing all these attachments to external freedoms that you mentioned?
Practical freedom, practical advice. My advice are all practical.
Attainable kind of advice.
Yeah, they are all practical. Whether you can do it or not, that's a different question. So that's a good question actually. In return, I will ask you, can you give me some hypothetical but actual freedom that might be important, not to you, but to somebody? Then I can give a more direct, practical suggestion.
I think it's somewhere along the lines of minimizing expectations of things. That is how you actually get freedom.
Wait, you're giving the answer.
I sort of know the block.
That's kind of the answer, not the question. You're supposed to give me a question, not give me an answer. Okay, but I get what you mean. That's one approach, yeah, to calibrate our expectation. I always like to look at young people. Yeah. Like what is one freedom you like? Like imagine that your mom is not here. Imagine. Yeah. But of course we know that she's here. And whatever you say may be used against you when you're back at home. May and will be used. So what is the kind of freedom you want? Like, let's say freedom to sleep at whatever time you want, maybe. Freedom to use your phone whenever you want. How about that? Sounds good. Yeah. Answer carefully because she's actually there. We all want that, right? Yeah, basically to do as we please. You'll be surprised to know that your mom also wants to do that. She will love to just sleep when she wants to sleep and wake up only when she wants to. You think she'll enjoy waking up at 5+ in the morning? Like if she had a choice, you think she want to wake up at 9 or 10, sleep in. If she have a choice, you think she'd want to just watch Netflix the whole night, and then morning wake up, iPad, and then like order in and just yeah, she would love to do that. Of course, not everybody, but I think it's not just children. Adults also want to do that. But why don't she do that? Why don't she do that? Because while she values being able to do as she please, she values even more the consequences of doing or not doing as she please. Yeah. She values the fact that if she were to do that, then she might not be able to provide you, to give you the freedom that you currently have. And to assure some level, some possibility of freedom that you will have in future. Why did I add in possibility? It is because despite giving up all her freedom in those areas, in various areas, those are just two things I mentioned, that even as she gave up all that freedom, she cannot guarantee that in future your life will be like this or like that. She can only increase the possibility. And even though it's just an increase in possibility, she's willing to give up her freedom. That's mother's love for you. Didn't know that it's going to turn that way, did you? But it's true. Yeah. Because there was one time I thought about how my parents, your Akong Ama, is very boring. Like one day, I'm a person who thinks a lot, even when I was a kid. And one day I was like, how come they don't have any hobby one? Yeah. How come they're always at home one? They don't go out one? It's actually because they gave up that freedom to pursue their hobby. Yeah. They make a choice. Actually, they do have the freedom, except that they don't indulge in that freedom the way we usually think of freedom. When we think of freedom, we usually think of it as to just do according to our desire. But individuals like our parents, they make use of that freedom not to fulfill their own desire, but to give us a chance to have that choice of freedom. So you have a freedom also. You have the freedom to rebel against them. You have the freedom to wait until they go to sleep and then secretly take out your phone and then check. You have the freedom to sneak a game or two while they're not looking. And as long as it's within a certain threshold where it doesn't affect your schoolwork, yeah, it seems like no big deal. And for the most part, it's okay. But in due time, perhaps you will one day come to a point in your life, a turning point, if you will, where you realize that your personal freedom is not everything in the world that matters. You'll come to a point where you care enough about another person, you're willing to give up your personal freedom. And to me, that is the greatest choice of freedom that you will make in your life. So what choice will you make with that freedom that you have? Will you just choose with that freedom to fulfill your own desires, your whims and fancy? Or will you look around you and say, for this person, for that person that I care for, yeah, I give up my freedom. Coming to 愿消三障诸烦恼，
愿消三障诸烦恼，
愿得智慧真明了，
愿得智慧真明了，
普愿罪障悉消除，
普愿罪障悉消除，
世世常行菩萨道。
世世常行菩萨道。
阿弥陀佛。Thank you for giving us your freedom.